Hey there. Hmm.
Hello,
Are you out on your porch?
I am. And I got, there's the dogs.
Oh,
I got a new couch over here.
oh, that's beautiful.
We put the lights up around the pool, so I'm pretty excited
Oh,
about
I
it.
see that. Oh, that's great. You guys have had a busy weekend.
But it was grad party weekend, so
I
it was the
know.
most busy weekend. And oh my gosh,
And how did he break his toe?
he was emptying stuff out of the back of the van into the dump. So it literally was just like hauling it from here to there and throwing it in and tripped and probably wasn't wearing work appropriate shoes. So
Bummer.
I know
Oh,
he's the guy who walks around barefoot and in his flip flops a lot. And so he's probably going to get a lot of reminders of, I know you really like that, but if you're doing things, you have to cover your feet up. There's reasons. So,
oh. Well, and then you had rain. You had every obstacle possible.
yeah, the daughter only cried once because it wasn't going to be like she thought it was. But once she saw the garage set up, it was perfect.
Good,
So
good.
it all worked out for her. And it looked like we meant it to be that way. Like it was
Yeah,
so good. But
that's
I will
awesome.
say that my garage was not party ready. And so I kept waiting and waiting and waiting for like the morning of to look at the hourly forecast. And
Mhm.
the party was from 6 to 9. And the hourly forecast said 100% chance of rain.
Oh God.
Like, well, I guess our decision has been made. I can stop hoping. I can stop hoping.
Yeah.
And Jakari and his partner showed up at 10 o'clock that morning, and I think we had the garage ready to go by noon or one. Like, table
Wow.
decorated, like, because like you just, so I have one garage here, and then Mark has his garage here. So we were pulling all those storage totes, and we had ordered some pipe and drape so we could block
Yeah.
all my Christmas decorations being hung up on one wall, and cleared out everything else. And now my garage is pretty clean, and it's all on Mark's side, and his is not clean at all.
Oh, I like how you work, Carrie.
It's He was sitting there because my brother-in-law and my nephew came over. They were helping string lights and just move stuff around. And Shakari and Andreas were moving stuff around, and the kids were helping. And he was sitting there, and he had his foot up at one point, and he says, looks at me, he says, "Is this what it feels like to be you?" It's like,
Why, yes. Yes, it is.
actually, maybe we just get other people to do things. That's our superpower.
That's right. That's right. Well, my dear, I don't know who all's coming, but if it's just a one-on-one, I can shut the recording off and we can have a one-on-one
Yeah.
bonus.
We could have a short one-on-one because we have 4 consultations today for home stretch that just came up.
Carrie, this is so fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, this has started to become bigger and better than you ever possibly, like, it's moving in that direction
Yeah.
of where you want it to go.
Well, and 3 of them today came from one of my good friends who's a realtor. She's the one we went to Puerto Vallarta with her and her husband.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and she is getting overwhelmed with all this stuff. I'm like, this is exactly what we do. Let us help you. So Jakari is out quoting houses, and I'm at home putting the quotes together. And, we're looking for a space. We have a LOI in on a like office space.
Well, now, is this that warehouse that you were talking about that could dual for the Cinnaholic and okay, cool.
Oh yeah, and I could have it has a training room in it with giant whiteboards and a projector screen that comes down. It
Oh,
has a
that's
separate
awesome.
conference room. I was like, be a I could have training classes and do consulting out of this place. This is
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh, that's
And it
great.
has all the space that we need. So we're waiting for a response from them. And then I did book a trip in out of the country, Debbie.
Where are you going?
So my friend, same friend, realtor, we've been friends. We became friends because we were both on the worship team. I play the guitar and she played the
Yeah.
keyboard. And I was going through my divorce, and like about that time, we became friends. And her daughter, who is a photographer, who actually took Mark and I's wedding pictures, she's in her 30s. She's getting married in September in Paris. So I've never been to Paris, and they were begging us to come, so we are crashing the wedding. And they had room for 20 and they had 18 guests. And I'm like,
Guess what?
and we've been on vacation with this couple too. So I mean, we know them and love them. But since it's my birthday and I wanted to go to Italy, we're flying into Italy. We're spending 2 nights in the Dolomites, flying into Venice, driving up there for 2 nights, and then flying. Oh, look, I am doing it.
You're creating all sorts of fun for yourself.
Talking about my spontaneously planned trip, which everybody is not surprised about. Okay, flying into Venice, 2 nights in the Dolomites, and then flying back down to Venice, and then we're putting my hands down, and then we're flying to Zurich, Switzerland, and we're going to spend the day there, and then we're taking a train and meeting my friends in Dijon, France, for a couple nights. They booked an Airbnb, so we're crashing that, and then we're going north to Paris for a couple days, and then it's the wedding, and then we fly home.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna
Doing
have
all
so much
this?
fun.
What?
When are you
Okay.
doing all of that?
In September.
Okay.
Should be like right after we open Cinnaholic, before we open the next home stretch.
What is that?
Retro-tour.com. Funnest thing I've ever done in my entire life. They take you all around Paris in a sidecar.
Metro-tour.com.
Yeah, and there's sidecars, and we had so much fun. Oh my gosh. And they take you to all sorts of cool places. But like here you can see there's 2, like one in the sidecar and one on the back.
Mhm.
I don't know if my motorcycle driving husband could handle letting somebody else drive.
Maybe you could rent a sidecar.
There you go.
I don't know what the driver's license. I think you just have to have a US license, because my friend we rented a car. But it's just fun because they take you and they stop in front of the Eiffel Tower so you can take pictures. They go to that big church up on the hill. They take you past Moulin Rouge, and then they stop at the love wall that has like this wall with all the different ways to say love. So that's cool.
Perfect.
Yay,
All right.
that'll be so
Get it.
fun. It's
Paris
exciting.
Vintage Private Tour on the side.
I don't know what just happened. It's Robot Carrie.
Yep. Internet's not working out on the deck.
It.
So Carrie, you're okay there, you're back, I think. Nope,
Maybe.
she's frozen again.
Frozen again.
So
Oh, I
Pam,
saw
what's going
Blake.
on in your world?
Oh gosh, so much craziness.
You had a
We
bunch
are.
of stuff out too.
I what?
You had a bunch of stuff out too for bids and
Yeah, tons of new clients, which is really cool. Actually, one that Lachelle put me in touch with. And it was kind of a weird thing. She was like, "Hey, I just feel like you guys really need to talk. Like, I just feel like," and so she had given me like very little information. Like she has a music therapy practice, blah blah blah, and that was about it. And so Christine and I meet. We get on the meeting, and we're both like, I don't really know what we're supposed to talk about. We were both like, I don't know why Michelle thought we should talk, but I guess we should talk. So she tells me about her business. I tell her about mine. Turns out she's got a whole bunch going on in her personal life, and her business is not making the profit that it was making in the past years. And she needs to budget and figure all this stuff out, and figure out kind of like the person who had been doing her books had kind of jacked a bunch of stuff up, and she was behind on her current book. And so anyway, Lachelle had not intended for us to work on accounting stuff necessarily. It was more about the HR stuff and working with like
oh yeah.
team and all of that. When I went back to read her messages, I was like, oh, that's what she had originally connected us for, because she also wants to kind of coach around that kind of stuff. And so, but it turns out that she really needed my help on the accounting side. So I'm like, okay, here's what I want to do. Like, all of this is what I would do. I would normally charge probably $3,000 to $5,000 for that. I was like, I'm going to do it for 2, and with the understanding that you'll give me some feedback and I can be very candid and ask you questions about like packaging this type of thing.
Oh, good. Like market research.
And yeah. So that's what we're doing. So that was kind of cool.
Hey, that's fantastic.
Because basically I'm cleaning up her QuickBooks and then we're going to find kind of like her break-even point, her kind of labor burden, do some budgeting and some cash flow forecasting with her. So she has kind of, she knows what her runway looks like and she knows kind of, okay, these are my fixed costs and these are the things that vary, with revenue. And so we're going to do all of that. And then hopefully I'll get some, testimonial from her, maybe write it up as a word, like a white paper. I can't forget the word I'm trying to say. So that was neat. We have a couple other new clients that have signed on. We have a new employee that we're just waiting on her background check. So
Nice.
this is the second one this year. Having some problems with the first one that we hired, so I'm a little nervous about that. She's doing good work, but she's not committed. She's not the go-getter that we thought she was. I think we gave her too much credit for having been in the military and having done her internship with KPMG. Like I was like, oh, she's completely, nobody puts up with KPMG unless they're really going somewhere. Except like, I think she does really, really well with structure. And what we have is a lot more flexible than what she's used to. And she's, I don't want to say taking advantage, but really not treating it as a professional work environment like she should. So
that's a bummer.
Yeah. So I had to talk with her yesterday. I've been trying to let her supervisor deal with it and then her supervisor's supervisor. And finally I was like, all right, I'm just going to have a 60-day evaluation with her and make it super clear. And she's got this week and next week to figure it out. And if we don't see improvement, then we're just going to let her go.
Yeah. Which
is unfortunate because her work product is good, but we just never know if she's working, what she's working on. Did she do what she said she did? She's leaving for like 2 hours in the middle of the day to go to the gym because she's working on being like a bodybuilding competition. Like, yeah, she's got twins at home. They just moved. She's just got a lot going on.
Yeah. Yeah. And then do you have, nice to have you back, Carrie. Do you have like set hours that you ask them to work? Yeah.
We let people like define their own ideal schedule, but it needs to be between the hours of 7 a.m. and 6 p.m.
Yeah.
So if you want to work 7 to 4, cool. 8 to 5, 9 to 6, like whatever, works for you and your family and what you have going on, great. And the flexibility is there. Like if you have an appointment, and you need to make up the time, you can work an extra half an hour a day or an extra hour, stay late one night or whatever. But you have to kind of earn that, right? Like you have to prove that you can get your stuff done in regular working hours before you can work at night. And she hasn't really done that. And so she's booking appointments like in the middle of the day rather than like first thing in the morning or end of the day.
Yeah.
And she's not making compensation for it. And she's also not putting in PTO for it. So we ran her time and realized that she's been under for in 60 days, 26-ish hours. Like some weeks she was 8 hours under in her time. And it was like, why? And she said she didn't have enough work to do. And I was like, but you're not getting everything completed. So how is that possible? How do you not have enough work and still you're not completing what's been assigned to you? Like, so, so it's just an opportunity for us to like really kind of hone our controls. And now we have some other things in place for the supervisors to be watching the time and making sure that, things are happening in a better way. And, gave them an opportunity to see if they could kind of coach her out of it. And I think she's the type of person that when you have a conversation with her, she acts like she understands, she's on board, everything's great. 2 days later, it's same old, same old. You're like,
yeah, she's hiding behind the I got my shit together mask, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Well, and I don't know, Carrie, if you've heard of this before too, let me know, but situational leadership by Ken Blanchard. Have you ever read any of the like 1 Minute Manager books?
Mm-mm.
So it's an older piece, but what it says, and let me see if I can just quickly pull up the chart, situational leadership to the situational leadership model. Yeah, here we go. I'll show you this. And I love this because it helps when you're managing a team. So I don't know if you can see this. Let me see if I can make this bigger. I don't necessarily want all the words, but this chart over here talks about style, like your style as a leader, and then also where people are. So when it comes to this quadrant, and it's based on the situation. So it's not like when somebody's new, most of what they're going to fall into is the D1, meaning their developmental level needs
Mm-hmm.
high direction, but low motivation. So everything on the right side, this selling and telling, this is a little different than what I'm used to. So I'm going to use different words that are here. But everything on this side, S1 and S2 style, means that you give high direction. But then in the telling part of it, or the style one, you don't have to give a lot of support, because when they first start, they're excited to get going, like they're motivated, so on and so forth, but they don't have the knowledge and skill to do the job. Then they get up into this quadrant 2 and they get a little bit in the disillusionment stage. And this is where they don't necessarily have all the knowledge and skill for that particular situation. And I use an example of a manager that managed a bunch of trainers for me at Citibank. And when she started, we were in the middle of annual reviews. And she was like nailed it on all aspects of being a great manager and a people leader. And so when evaluations came out, I was like, okay, guys, here's the dates. Here, Renee and Missy, we're going to do this. And, here's the information. And Missy left, and she came back about 5 minutes later, and she says to me, she goes, did you forget I've never done this before? I'm like, yeah. And you've nailed everything else. So I just like assumed, right? So I
Yeah.
was over here on this side where I didn't provide a lot of knowledge and skill. Now, she was super fantastic at what she did in a lot of other areas, but that particular situation. So it's based on knowledge and skill, which means that's training, that is giving direction. And then
Mm-hmm.
motivation, or confidence and motivation, come over here. So then they get in here and they know what to do. You've seen them do it. So you see that they have the skill, kind of like this gal, but then the confidence to do the job, they might be tentative and they might need more of a cheerleader. That's this like participating. This is more of like a cheerleader, like you're
Mm-hmm.
helping with the motivation and the confidence level, but you're not having to give a lot of direction. And then this one down here is when you have somebody that knows what they're doing and they have the confidence and the motivation. Now, motivation, the definition of that in situational leadership is that they just don't see or understand the value of completing whatever it is that you're asking them to complete. Right. So understanding where she's saying she doesn't have a lot of work to do, if you can figure out what is that knowledge? Is that skill? So she's not doing certain pieces of it. Is it more the confidence or the motivation? And in this case, some clarity around, I mean, because it sounds like you don't care if she works 7 to 6 and takes 2 hours to go work out, but you just like to know what that schedule is and to make
Right.
sure she gets everything done. I know one of the things I was just working with a client in Montana about is, and I don't know what North Carolina laws are, but like having this probationary period, which I'm sure you probably do, and saying there are certain things that you need to meet before the flexibility kicks in, right? Like
Right.
the first 30 days you're going to work, and being super clear about that. Like the first 30 days, we want to make sure you're set up for success, that things are happening. And then once we know that how to do the job and have the knowledge and skill to do that, you understand the importance of it, then we can talk about flexibility in the job, because nothing is worse than feeling like you're paying someone and they're not getting the work done.
Yeah. And so we can watch, we time track, right? Everybody has to track their time per client so that we can figure out profitability per client and whatever. And we've explained all of that to her multiple times.
Yeah.
And so on, is it Monday? Might have been last week. I don't know. Anyway, I saw she had been gone for almost 2 hours. Then we had a team meeting. And then she was saying she was going to be gone again for something else that afternoon. I was like, Sherry, took a 2 hour lunch break. Like everybody else has already worked 6 hours today. She's worked 3. Like what is happening? Right. And so then we've put some other things in place for the managers now to start pulling a report on Monday and looking at the hours for the prior week and making so that they're on top of like who's working how much and those kinds of things. And they we've started a monthly self-evaluation and manager evaluation.
Cool.
So then they meet and talk about, they both fill out the same questionnaire about the employee, and then they meet to see where they're really off, right? And so this was the first month we did that. So I had her results and I went over them with her, even though Morgan had already done that. I was like, hey, here are the areas of opportunity for us here that we really, this is what we're seeing. And I can tell this is happening because this is what I'm seeing in your time, right? I'm like, you're logging in and out of the same client 7 times in a day. You're losing all the productivity. Every time you log out and log back in, you're losing 7 minutes of productivity. And so you've got to stay focused and you've got to stop acting like a ping pong ball that is just going wherever the wind is blowing you. And we calendar block, right? And we train everybody how to do it. And we tell them, look, this is a skill. It's not something you get immediately. It takes a while to really trust it and know how to use it. However, you've said that you want to work 9 to 6, but your time blocks start at 7:30. So that doesn't correlate.
Yeah.
And your time blocks end at 3:30. So 7:30 to 3:30 is not 9 to 6. So, you've got to update them and they've got to be real, and you've got to put all of your personal appointments on your calendar, because we shouldn't be finding out 5 minutes beforehand, oh yeah, I'll be gone for the next couple hours. I've got an appointment for the twins, or I've got, she, I guess, has some mental health appointments with the VA, and she's like, those could be monthly, they could be weekly, depending on how things are going. And I'm like, okay, but as soon as you know about them, you need to be putting them on your calendar. Like,
Right.
most of those are not emergency meetings. You have to immediately put them on as soon as you know about them. And I just thought most of that stuff was common sense. But she's young. She's 24, about to be 25. She's talking about having to go to Vegas for her midlife crisis birthday. And I was like, you're what now? If 25 is your midlife, then I'm almost dead. So,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
here's
my college age student gave us more commitment and more drive as a college student than she's giving me as a professional, right? And that's where I'm struggling.
Yeah. And too, it might be an interesting conversation. And Carrie, feel free to jump in here too, as a leader of people. But it might be kind of interesting to have the conversation with her about what does professionalism mean to her? Right? Like I go back to the black diamond is easy for one person and easy is a different definition, right? Because to your point, in the military, they are used to a little bit more structure. But I'm finding that, and it's not just age, but it's also like how they were raised, all the things that we've been working with too. And so sometimes understanding where they're coming from will help you then as a leader to know where you need to coach.
Right. What I struggle with is she says all the right things and then does not behave the way that she says.
So then it's
believes.
a matter of being honest, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really
because she will say all the right things and tell you everything that you want to know and give you all the right answers. And then you're like, where's that in your behavior? Because your behavior does not reflect what you told me.
Yeah.
So
your culture is much more transparent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, just working through that. That's been interesting.
I have one last question for you, and then we're going to keep asking Carrie some questions because your internet kind of did some squirrely stuff. Whatever happened with the conversation with Dave? Isn't it Dave?
So yes, it's Dave. So we had a little bit of an email conversation, and then he was like AWOL. And so I have a meeting with him on Friday.
Good.
And he has a meeting with Katrina right after. So this meeting is just he and I, it's not client related. But he's got all these things going on, and Katrina's so frustrated with working with him that I'm like, I just don't know that this is gonna, I can make this happen, because he is infuriating on so many levels. And I don't think it's something he can change. I think he doesn't have the knowledge that he presents himself to have. And he wants to just like be like, here, make it work. And the client, but because we're going through him, the client wants him to be involved and to weigh in, and he doesn't have the knowledge or the skill to be able to weigh in. He needs us to do the work, and then he turns around and wants to present our work as his. And I'm like, it just doesn't feel good all the way around. And he's like, Katrina, have you fixed this yet? Have you fixed this yet? She's like, Dave, I don't know how many more times I can tell you. There is no fix for this. They did it wrong. It's not going to match. Like, the guy has been giving his version of the numbers to the board and to the investors, not our version. And our version is correct. And he now wants our version to match his version. They're not going to match because his version, nobody knows where the hell they came from. He pulled them out of thin air, what he thought were the right numbers, but nothing in the system supports it. So they're never going to match. So yeah, it's been like, I just feel like even if Dave and I can get on the same page, he's just not the kind of business owner and person in this position. Like, he doesn't have the skills to do what he wants to be doing.
Yeah. And then Pam, what I would do is take a look at and say, right, because this will continue to show up because salespeople have a certain persona and a certain personality, right? So going back to what we talked about before, where the universe is going to continue to give this to you to work through it. So then I would take some time and figure out like what worked well, what didn't work well, what were some things that, you know, from a communication and clarity standpoint up front, like, what do you want if you decide to partner with somebody else in the future? What does that really look like? How does that work? Because
yeah, and I thought we had really sorted all that out with Dave, and then he just doesn't do it the way, it's kind of like my employee, doesn't do it the way he says he wants to do it. And he's largely absent, and then comes back in and is like, okay, chop chop. And it's like, wait, you haven't answered a single email in 2 weeks, and now you're like, is it done?
Yeah.
What? And so it's so frustrating for my team that I'm like, I can't keep putting them through this because I don't want them to quit over having to work with Dave. Like, it's not worth it to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely need a little more alignment with any kind of partnership. And I feel like the partnership we have is largely it's all geared towards like through his company. And so we have very little autonomy. And so like, even when we present something to the client that we've all agreed on in a meeting with the client, we go do the work, we come back, we're like, okay, here's the finished product. And he's like, hey, in the future, could you give that to me first? Why? So you can sit on it for 2 weeks and not get it to the client, and then the client thinks that we're not doing our job? No.
Yeah. So it also sounds like if you go into another one of these, you truly want a partnership, not, you know, because the way that's set up is it does come across as it's his company and you're doing the
Right.
work behind to support that versus we're coming at this as a team to support you, Mr. Client or Miss Client, right?
I just
Yeah.
feel like sometimes
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Carrie. What'd you say?
Sometimes what?
I'm Dave. Sometimes. So
You're Dave.
Me too. That's why I'm like, you're gonna keep running into this because
He's like-
people don't do the details.
He's a really pleasant guy to hang out with and converse with and whatever, but he wants to also be involved in service delivery, and that's where he falls down. Like, he can sell all he wants, but he is dog shit when it comes to details. Like,
Yeah.
doesn't know how to navigate QuickBooks, doesn't know how to get the reports that he needs, asks for reports that are so time consuming because he doesn't understand the alternative. He's like, well, I just need it like this. And it's like, this is the same information. It's just, we can get this same exact information. You have to change the way you look at it, but it's the exact same information. Nope, I need to see it like this. Okay, well, that's going to take me like 10 hours. Okay, go ahead. Right? Like, he just can't retrain his brain to do anything different, and super frustrating.
Yeah. And so use what you've learned so far this year, some of the questions, what would it take? Right? Like, and because really what's happening, here's something that you can use as market research too, because you can coach him based on what you've gone through even before working with me, but some of the things that we've been doing over this year, in the fact that he's stopping himself from being able to make more money, to be able to scale his business, right? And so if you can go at it too by asking questions, because ask me how I know, our personality type, we will resist if we feel like we're being told that we're not doing something right, because salespeople like to be right. And I'm making a gross overgeneralization there. So Carrie, correct me if when you're in your Dave persona, you don't feel that way. But if you ask me questions and let me kind of self get to that answer, I'm much easier to buy into it. But it sounds like you got some clarity where you don't really want to work with them anymore.
Yeah, I just think, and it's actually given me clarity because, when we're talking about doing this HR stuff, people keep asking me like, well, why don't you just partner with somebody who's already delivering those services? Because I can't be in control of a partner, right? And I'm at their mercy and I can't get it done the way I would do it. And part of what I feel like I bring to the table is doing it my way works for my team and the systems that we have set up and whatever. And if we have to then like having to partner with Dave, who does not do things our way, does not use our systems, says he wants to, he's in all of our Slack channels, has never said a word in Slack, right? I don't know if he's reading them or not. The clients that all interact with us in Slack. But like, anyway, I just feel like it's either you outsource it and you just say, okay, they're going to handle it, or you do it all in house, right? Like everybody's on my team so that I can control what that looks like, what the interaction looks like, who's responding to whom, how, and what the parameters are. I think it's just too hard to have external partners that have two different objectives.
Yeah, I think that's the issue there. Is there's two different objectives, right?
Yeah.
And because the control thing can also do exactly what Dave's doing to himself, right? It can limit you in the scope perspective, but you've done a lot of work in letting go and allowing people to do things. So yeah, might be hiring.
Yeah, it's not that I want to do all the work, God knows. But I want to be able to control, the parameters of like, okay, we have a thing that you respond within 4 hours, right? To a Slack, to an email, to a voicemail, to whatever. Even if it's to say, hey, I got your message, I won't be able to tackle that until this afternoon or tomorrow, whatever. But like, you have to respond. You can't just not respond, right? So when I say control, like having things like, I can't tell Dave, hey, I need a response within 4 hours. Right? Like I can tell him that's what I would prefer. He doesn't answer to me. I can't dictate you will respond to the client and us within 4 hours. Right? Like no.
But I hear what you're saying, right? And I might offer up to you to change the word control to culture, right? The culture of your organization is one that you use these systems because it works, because the law of compensation says you're compensated for what you do, how well you do it, and how difficult it is to replace you, right? So those differentiating pieces are what sets you apart. And I feel like that's part of the frustration that you're feeling too, is that not even so much control, but it's not following the processes of what you follow that are tried and true and make you stand out amongst the pack.
Right. Right. And when I think about partnering with like an HR firm, for example, most of the HR firms run their businesses with subcontractors. Most of them are not W-2 employees. Well, again, it means they don't even have control over what the priorities are of their contractors, let alone like what the priorities are for our clients, right? Like, so my preference is to always have W-2 employees, because then you can control their priorities, their work hours, their everything, and say, this is how we do it. And I'm not, you're not also trying to cover clients somewhere else because you have outside clients. And, as a contractor, you can be working for, umpteen number of other people and have different priorities. And that doesn't work for me. Yeah. That's what it feels like working with David. It feels like he's got 100 other things and we are just one tiny speck and he
Yeah.
treats us like we are one tiny speck until his back is against the wall and somebody's breathing down his neck for something. And then he's like, okay, come on, we gotta do this. And it's like, we've been asking you about this for months.
Yeah.
Now you want it today? Like, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
That's super frustrating.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's some clarity that even when you look at your vivid vision, like your culture, and it's way okay to say, I'm not going to use contractors. I want them to be employees. Like, that's totally okay.
Yeah.
Well, let us know how the conversation goes on Friday.
Thank you. I have a feeling he's going to be like, so I have this new client coming on board. I have this new client coming on,
Well, and Pam, maybe part of it is too, is that, okay, you know what? From this point forward, we'll take on these new clients that are here, but here's how this works. If it doesn't, then I'm going to hand you their stuff and you can go find somebody else to go do it.
Right.
I mean, you have to be that direct with people like me. Right.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to, right? Because I think that, like, basically he creates an SOW to work with somebody and doesn't share it with us. We create the SOW that we think he needs from us based on our conversations with the client and him and whatever. We're like, okay, so we're contracting with you for this. We have no idea what you've actually contracted with the client for, right? And so he's got to fill in the
that's a lack in,
holes.
that's a big gap. Yeah.
It's stupid, right? And I'm like, this is not okay. And everything with him is like loosey goosey. He's like, how about we start hourly? And then like, this is going to be a good client for us. It's going to grow and, it'll be a couple $1,000s a month, but let's, start out small, whatever. And we just have no control over how those things progress. And it's all reliant on his interaction with the client without us. And then it's like, it's like a trickle down thing. And I don't like that feeling. It feels very.
And I might offer up to try to let go of some of the judgment, right? That you have when you go to talk to him on Friday, and think about what's ultimately the most important to you. What's most important to you is that the client gets serviced the right way. And you feel like that's not happening right now.
Right.
And it's causing frustration with your team, which is another, priority for you. And so if you can keep that focused on those things and just be conscious of some of the verbiage that you're using, like, I know you're saying stupid to us. You're not going to say that necessarily to him. But I just mean, like, if you can kind of think about that too, as you approach that, I think it'll weave together a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Carrie came off mute. Did you have something?
Well, I'm just so curious about the setup because, and I'm sorry if my internet's wonky. I am on my phone now. Okay. But I'm so curious about this setup because every single time I've ever worked with a vendor, I've had my sales representative who has sold me whatever I'm doing. And 100% of the time they have passed me off to my account manager who manages me. So I just feel like that is so fundamentally missing from this partnership.
Yeah. So he's not actually like a salesman. He has his own firm and he's basically outsourcing the bookkeeping piece to us, right? So he wants to do the advisory work and stay with the client until they get to a point where they need to sell. And then he wants to sell them the like mergers and acquisition type advisory stuff. But in the meantime, he's helping them with their financials for their investors and, doing like, he has this whole like 2-hour advisory that he thinks that's his only responsibility is this 2 hours a month. But everything runs through his company. So they only engage his company and he engages us. So we have direct communication with the client, but we don't actually answer to the client. We answer to Dave. And so we have to go through him for everything. And he is always the bottleneck. So what he really wants to do is just sell. He would love to sell. But he also wants to do this higher M&A type stuff. And so he's trying to build his business and make it look bigger than it is or continue to look bigger, right? So he can show higher revenues, even though he's paying us out of those revenues. And then, show that his company is big enough to handle these M&A jobs is really what his objective of all of it is. And then ideally, I would have equity in Software CPAs, which is his company, and still get the revenue like we're getting it. But the goal is for me to eventually have equity, so we're swimming in the same direction.
So as you're talking to him, a suggestion I have to you too is pointing out where the gaps in this communication and in this process is making him look bad.
Mm.
Because that's what's important to him,
Yeah.
right? This aesthetic that he's got a bigger company that he, and I'm not judging that, but it's like that's his like trigger, right? Like he wants to look good to the client and be, and it's not just all ego stuff, but so if you can then say, hey, we both want the same thing. We both want the clients to be serviced really well. This isn't working the way it is. And frankly, there's times that you're getting in your own way from scaling and it's making you look bad and it's making us look bad, which
Mhm.
we're supposed to be representatives of your company, which then
Right.
ultimately is making you look bad again, right?
Mhm.
Because then that speaks to him because then he'll want to make changes based on what's going to look good to the client, right?
Right.
And reputation probably is important, right? Like we got to get this right. And you may be in that position where you're like, hey, this just isn't working. But if you're
Mhm.
looking at consulting in the future, this is a really good opportunity to like think about his value orientation, which is recognition and achievement. And
Mhm.
how do I speak to that to come to a resolution? Because you both want the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think my first solution is if we're going to continue to partner, we need to engage directly with the client, right? Like you do your piece with the client, we'll do our piece. We'll still coordinate with you like we do with every CFO on the face of the planet. But we need to have an engagement directly with the client for what we're going to deliver. And it has to be outside of you because he's just so much of a bottleneck.
Have I
And if he
shared
doesn't want to
that?
do that, then
Yeah. Yeah. And then that's a choice that you'll make because that's not how you want to do business. Have I shared the alignment meeting with you, the questions?
I don't remember. I
It's
feel like maybe.
it's basically the same questions. I kind of shift them up a little bit, and you can use this when you're managing people. You can do this when you're managing these kinds of relationships. I used to use this with my boss because I have been remotely managed in corporate almost my entire corporate like career. And basically, the four questions are, what are you getting from me that you want to continue to get? What are you getting that you don't need? What are you getting or what aren't you getting that you wish you were? Or that would make your job easier? Or,
Wait, what are you getting from me that you want to continue to get? What are you getting that you don't need? What are you
right?
not getting?
And then what are you not getting to be successful? Right.
That's
And
three. Which
you
one am I
can,
missing?
I think those are the basic three. Hold on just a minute.
Okay.
Let me go to Search Drive alignment meeting. Here we go. So I have this as I use this with employees. And so I have a new employee document and then this regular periodic alignment meeting. So this new one is also about like, how do you like to get recognized? Because I pulled a trainer up in our national sales stuff and like recognized her thinking, oh, right, like she's getting recognition. And then she went into the bathroom and puked. So I decided I'm going to start asking people how they like to be recognized. But basically, it's this. What are you receiving from me now that you want to continue to receive? And you switch up the wording, how whatever like works best for you. What are you getting from me that you don't need? Because then you have to question, why are you doing it? And he may say, well, I'm getting this and I don't really need this. And you're like, dude, you really need this, right? Like, and it allows for this alignment. And not that he's gonna respond or maybe even get the email before you meet on Friday, but a lot of times I'll give these questions to somebody and say, hey, I'd like to discuss this with you. And then what are you not getting from me that you would like to receive? And then these are just ones that I use with employees. Like, what can I do to help you be successful? What obstacles can I help you remove? But these are the three basic alignment meeting questions. Um, that I've used for years. and that might be helpful. I think I recaught my cold. I'm really pissed. Okay. So you got lots of fun coming up. We can't hear you because you're on mute.
Yeah, lots of fun. I also have an employee, Drew, who's a supervisor who's going on vacation, which is great. Go on vacation, absolutely. But he's going on vacation the week that his consulting project is due every month.
Oh,
Like,
hard.
he knows about it. So finally today I'm like, hey, what's your plan for this client while you're out? And he was like, that's a really great question. I guess I'll be doing the prep work this week and I'll take my laptop with me and have to do because he's the only person who knows how to do it.
Yeah.
But he scheduled his vacation for the week that is due. And it's like, I don't know what to say, buddy, but like so in the meantime, I got an email from his wife. He's going to be gone from noon on Friday and all next week. The following Thursday, so he gets back on Monday. The following that Thursday is his birthday. So his wife wants to take him to Vegas for his 30th birthday for Thursday and Friday. I'm like, that's great. I understand. I don't mind him being gone. However, I think you need to tell him because he's already coming back from a week's vacation,
Right.
5.5 days.
And there's some
everything's going to be condensed already. And we're hiring somebody to his team. So he's coming back to a new employee. All of the stuff that he missed while he was gone. And now you're going to make him leave for 2 days? Like, without telling him? Like, I would be really stressed out if somebody did that to me right after coming back from vacation. So I was like, I think she wasn't going to tell him until the 17th, and she wants to take him on the 20th. I was like, the 17th, there's nothing he can do about it at that point. It is what it is. You tell him now, he can plan for it at least some of this week and figure out what he's going to do. I'm like, I feel like you have to tell him. But I can't make her tell him, and I can't tell him because she's asked me not to. So now I'm like, now what do I do? Like, I know he needs time to plan and prepare and figure out what he's going to be doing with the new employee, with all of this other stuff, with the clients. And I have no control.
We're going to work on this control thing.
Yeah.
You might,
It's come up several times today, Pam.
I know. Can you tell I don't like when I'm not in control?
Well, and here's the deal. What's the worst case scenario if she does surprise him and he goes to Vegas? He takes his laptop and has to do some things?
I mean, preferably no, he would not. I would tell him not to take his laptop.
Right, but he's the type of person, right, that would stick to his commitments.
For a 2-day or like such an abbreviated vacation, I don't know. I mean, he's going to Myrtle Beach. He's going to be in a beach house next week. So like, I get it. He's like, it's going to take me a little longer because I don't have my second monitor, but I can get it done, with my laptop. And originally I had told him not to take his laptop with him to Myrtle Beach. And he was like, no, I just want to check my email because otherwise I come back to like a pile of stuff. And I would rather just keep up with at least the email in between. And I was like, okay, take it for that.
So has he not lived up to commitments in the past?
He really struggles when he has a lot of competing priorities.
Mm-hmm.
And normally I can help him figure out how he's going to do it. But I can't right now because he doesn't even know he's leaving. So normally I would say, hey, let's go ahead and sit down and plan this out. Like, we can make it work.
Okay, I lost your audio. That's weird.
Me too. Talking and then gone.
Yeah, it was like you just kept talking and the sound stopped.
There's some tech gremlins today, I think.
I know. Well,
Debbie,
they did say all these sunspots. Okay, now I can't hear you, Carrie.
Oh,
Say that again.
I love your hot pink shirt also.
Thank you, my velvet hot pink.
Yes.
My velour, my 1970s velour. Thank you. I have
Oh,
matching lipstick, but I
There's-
just haven't put it on yet.
Herder.
I don't know what just happened.
Okay.
Back.
So you
Um,
normally would help him plan. Could
But I
you do that with him being gone for a week and kind of say, what's your plan for coming back and let's figure this out? And like without him knowing that he's going to be gone and like make it so that there's not a ton of things on that Thursday and Friday?
I don't know how I would do that without giving it away.
Well, because he's getting ready to go on vacation, right? So, hey, let's put a plan together for when you come back so you can get caught up really quickly. So you don't feel like you have to be checking your email the whole time you're there since your laptop's going to be there.
Yeah.
And you can enjoy your birthday, whatever, I mean, it is his birthday regardless if he's leaving or not. So
Right. I could say, I know it's your birthday and, whatever, let's try and keep it light, but he's gonna I'm just worried he's gonna schedule client calls and all of those things for Thursday and Friday because he has no knowledge. And then his wife's gonna spring it on him on Monday and he's gonna be like, fudge. Now what do I do?
That's where I do think you could have that conversation around, because you have done that in the past. Hey, let's set up a success plan for you and let's look at your birthday, right? Like let's not have any client meetings. Let's let you have some space on Thursday and Friday for you to catch up. So let's put a plan together to make that
Mhm.
happen, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that would give it away. It's more of, hey, we've done this in the past and set up a success plan for you. Let's do it. And it's your birthday. So if you wanted to like sign out early and go celebrate, you can do that and not feel stressed out.
Right.
And not be on your vacation that you weren't originally taking your laptop on, feeling like you need to stay up on stuff so that you come back and are up on stuff, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I could be a little sneaky about it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, should I just email her back and be like, hey, do you plan on telling him ahead of time?
I would just take what you know and go at it with the aspect of, hey, let's make sure you're really light on Thursday and Friday because your birthday's on Thursday. And that way you have some freedom if you wanted to scoot out a little bit early and go celebrate. And that way, if you celebrated a little too hard on Thursday, you don't feel like you have a whole bunch of like client interfacing stuff on Friday. Let's put it together a plan to make that happen.
Yeah.
yeah, it's a 0 birthday. So all good ideas.
Did
Although
you say
now
it's 0 birthday?
it's 30, right? It's
Oh,
30.
Like the decade, yeah.
oh yeah.
But now I want to know where everybody was on your 30th birthday.
I had a party here and my best friends from Vermont came and my mom came and some of my friends from here and we just had a big party at the house.
Hmm.
But I went to Cancun for my 40th.
I don't know where I was on my 30th, but on my 40th, my then husband, I had broken my leg in February.
Oh,
My birthday was in April, and he had for a year been planning this surprise birthday party. My best friend from Idaho flew in, my sister from California flew in at the Majestic Steakhouse in Kansas City, and it was an old building and didn't have an elevator, and I couldn't bend my leg. It was like straight, so I had to scoot up on my butt, and I drank wine on pain pills that night, so I don't remember a lot of the night, but it was a lot of fun and it was really cool that he had spent that time. And then I do remember where I was on my 55th birthday. I was at the Eiffel Tower drinking champagne with my friends.
that's
Yeah.
exciting. On
Yeah,
my
where were
30th,
you?
my 30th birthday, I had just bought a minivan and I was 10 days away from giving birth. So it was not an ideal third. I mean, I was like, so that was my 30th. On my 40th, we rented a limo and drove around town and went to dinner with a bunch of my friends and kids and we
Oh,
went
that's
go, and then 50th is on its way. So
Mhm.
50th is this year for you or next year?
October 28th this year.
This year. Okay.
Nice. For my 60th, my two sisters are 5 years younger than me. So my middle sister will be 55 and my youngest sister will be 50. So she's already said, let's go take one of those smaller cruises around the Greek islands and do a cruise together so that we have 3 years to kind of prepare for it. So I'm like, cool, you plan it because she's an excellent planner and I'll go.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah. Okay, Miss Carrie, what do you got going on? You have a bunch of stuff out, quotes out. You've got a great team working on it. How's the Amazon stuff?
More and more frustrating every day. So I did text to Mark today. You will love this. I said, okay, we talked about my mastermind. What would it take? And then fill in the blank.
And what did he say?
He said, what's the blank? I was like, to quit Amazon, to make $1 million, to buy me a pink Porsche, to like fill in the blank. So Yeah. So I think that's like putting together a real plan to be done. In my head, I think we're done before Prime Week this year. I know I had said the fall, but I think it's like
Yeah.
I think it's just this negative energy that keeps hanging over us.
Mm.
And I've sort of felt like once we got through this crazy graduation party, not that it was crazy, but just prepping for a big party is,
It's a lot.
and you know, now we have a broken toe, so he's a little bit more mobile, which I think is just the Lord's way of telling him that like he has to work on his business and not in his business.
Mhm.
And so now we're going to go to, and we're looking at getting a space. So it's like, I feel like we're just like at that very part of this like rubber band getting pulled back, and we got to dump some junk before we can propel forward. So it feels like we're like right here.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the best way to describe it. Like we need the space because I need to hire some people, I think, for Homestretch, and I can't hire them and have them come sit at my kitchen table with me and Jakari and Sydney, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. So when is that building? When are you able to make a decision about that?
We have the LOI in, so I did text my brother's a realtor. I texted him and the guy who works for him today, like, hey, we heard anything? So we put the LOI in, I think, on LOI in last week. You know, it's usually like 30 days to get into a space. It's completely empty. It's got all the desks and everything. We just need to like,
Inhabit it.
yeah, let's
Yeah.
go. So once we can get in there, I think that will.
Did you, I know you were talking to somebody about purchasing or leasing the vans, because I know you had said like Amazon owns the vans or whatever. Were you able to get that figured?
So we have 10 vans that we have long-term leases that are not Amazon branded. And so that's sort of the biggest thing that we have hung over my head. And one of the things I need to figure out is if there's a personal guarantee on them. So I found the flash drives that have the contracts on them. So it's
Okay.
on my through and figure out the liability and get everything over to the lawyer who helped us leave my Amazon and figure out all the liability pieces. So
Good.
because we could just, if everything lines up right, we can just shut down the entity. And I don't feel bad because the Amazon predators are terrible. So if they don't collect their dollars, like we've paid for the vans over and over the way it works. We lease the vans, they create the vans, they want us to pay 30 grand to have them back to brand new status when we turn them in. Like, how many times are we going to pay for the same van that they got to depreciate, not us? It's a scam.
Yeah,
Scam.
that's crazy.
It is. So, and it's very predatory. So
That's crazy.
off to bigger and better things though. I feel like there's like got to get the negative energy out.
Yeah.
I'm annoyed with every leader on the team that works for us there too. So like
Yeah.
one of the whole delivery company didn't run any routes yesterday, and none of them told us. Like we weren't at the station yesterday since Mark's home with a broke toe and we're working on Homestretch. Why wouldn't anybody think to drop that in our group chat? Hey, Stand and Deliver didn't deliver any packages yesterday. What? That would have been good to know.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Cause your vase, it's got some holes poking and it is seeping energy
yeah,
for you. Yeah.
we just need to figure that out. So I got to set up payroll with Homestretch because Jakari and Sydney are still going to pay through the DSP. So there is a list. Like, what does it take?
Yeah.
There's a list off.
It's a great
So.
question, isn't it? Because it creates this inspired action list. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. I think I meet with both of you this week. I don't know. I'm still on yesterday.
I'm this afternoon, so
Okay. Oh yeah. I have you at 1:00 my time.
yep.
And then I have Carrie you on Wednesday.
Okay. Yes.
Awesome. Okay. We're going to dig into some more of all this stuff. So thank you guys for being here today and have
right.
a marvelous day. If you would put a win out in the, a win and a piece of gratitude out in the, chat.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks,
Awesome.
everybody.
Thanks.
Great.
Bye.